we know that the geography of a country has a huge role to play in its social and economic progress. Quite a few regions around the world have always been relatively better off than others due to the inherent advantages afforded by their starting position on the map, like arable land and natural borders. It's not really difficult to prove, either. Here are 10 countries let down by their geography. 10. Russia. Russia has so many problems with its geography that we don't even know where to start. The most obvious one is its absolutely humongous size. While on one hand, it makes the country almost impossible to invade, on the other, it makes transportation and trade a nightmare. That's the reason Russia was one of the last European powers to be fully industrialized. 9. Australia. Australia is, by all measures, a prosperous and developed nation, though that's despite its geographical features, not because of them. It's much more obvious if you look at its population density map, though just the general map would do, too. Australia is perhaps the only nation that is almost entirely uninhabited, as most of its population lives in moderately populated urban centers of South and Southeast Australia. Other than that, the country is full of absolutely inhospitable places in a variety of terrains, from dry desert to tropical forests. 8. Indonesia. Indonesia's geography is unlike any other country, and that's not an exaggeration. By definition, it's an archipelago, though that barely begins to explain what it really is. Indonesia is, by far, the largest archipelago nation in the world, made up of over 18,000 scattered islands of vastly varying sizes. While some are barely a few miles across in size, the largest ones are comparable to islands like New Guinea and Borneo. 7. Egypt. Most people would say that Egypt's geography has actually been its biggest lifeline, and they'd be correct. One of the cradles of civilization, the fertile plains of the Nile Delta have provided Egypt with an inherent advantage over other countries. All of that, however, is in the past, or more specifically, before the construction of the Suez Canal. Built in 1868, the canal is an artificial sea corridor linking the Mediterranean and Red Seas, as before that, European trade ships had to go all the way around the entire African continent to get to Asia. 6. Pakistan. While it's a bit unfair to say that Pakistan has always had a geography problem, as the country only came into existence a bit over 70 years ago, it definitely does now. You don't even need to put in extensive research to know why, just take a look at its map. 5. The Netherlands. The Netherlands is one of a small number of European nations to set up a vast colonial empire, even if it was short-lived. It's in stark contrast to most entries on this list, too, as it's a developed and prosperous nation in all aspects. Again, though, that's only because it has been so good at overcoming its geographical challenges. 4. China. If you study China's history, you'd notice a pattern. It's absolutely full of internal strife and conflict, which may just be the reason that it never had time for wars going on outside, until those wars came to China, of course. The largest rebellion in history, the Taiping Rebellion, happened in China, along with quite a few other major civil wars. 3. Uzbekistan. As most people could guess, being landlocked creates huge problems in terms of trade, economic development and political stability. Landlocked nations have to spend a huge amount of money and political influence to get access to a port, as trading via land is ridiculously expensive and time-consuming. Even then, they're always dependent on the stability of their neighbors for trade, further diminishing their future prospects. 2. Japan. Japan has so many problems with its geography that it's hard to focus on just one. Most famously, it lies along the Pacific Ring of Fire, a horseshoe-shaped chain of islands and volcanoes in the Pacific that's also the most tectonically active region in the world. That's why earthquakes are so common across the country, to the extent that earthquake-proofing is a legal requirement for buildings in most cities. 1. The entire African continent. While it's true that Africa isn't just one country, and is, in fact, made up of many diverse regions and cultures with their own distinct identities, the entire continent suffers from the same geographical problem. Africa is, to put it simply, too long. Compared to the horizontal stretch of Eurasia, which allows domesticated crops and technologies to travel to far-off places with similar conditions, Africa's vertical makeup has always hindered its technological and developmental progress. Thanks for watching the video. Do like, share and comment the video. Do subscribe to the channel if you like similar kinds of videos.